Hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Aurelia Najwa from class 33 to CN07. Now I will do a thought project, subject active listening skill that was given by Ms. Rangga. Here for the part 1, answer the question correctly. Number 1. What does SETI stand for? According to Professor Hilary Twine, the answer is SETI stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Number 2. Why does Professor Hilary say that many people misunderstand the purpose of SETI? The answer is because many people think SETI scientists search for UFOs or flying saucers around Earth, while actually they search for intelligent life in space. Number 3. Does Professor Hilary personally believe in UFO? Explain her opinion. The answer is no. Professor Hilary does not personally believe in UFO. He says SETI scientists do not necessarily believe aliens are visiting Earth in silver discs. Number 4. What do SETI scientists actually believe about intelligent life? The answer is SETI scientists believe that intelligent life exists somewhere in the universe, either in our solar system or another galaxy. Number 5. Why does Mike feel surprised by Hilary's opinion about UFO? The answer is Mike feels surprised because he thought believing in UFO was part of Hilary's job as a SETI researcher. Number 6. Explain the difference between believing in intelligent extraterrestrial life and believing in UFO visiting Earth. The answer is believing in intelligent extraterrestrial life means believing aliens may exist somewhere in space, while believing in UFOs visiting Earth means believing aliens have already come to our planet. Number 7. How did Professor John Turgan explain the difficulty of searching for extraterrestrial life? The answer is Professor John Turgan explained the difficulty by comparing it to a snail in Alaska trying to find other snails hundreds of miles away. Number 8. What does the snail in Alaska analogy represent? The answer is the snail in Alaska analogy represents how difficult and slow it is to search for extraterrestrial life across huge distance in space. Number 9. What active methods did scientists use during the 1960 and 1970 to search for extraterrestrial life? The answer is during the 1960 and 1970, scientists sent probes into space with messages, photos, music, and maps showing Earth location. Number 10. Why did some people think that sending signals into space could be dangerous? The answer is some people thought sending signals into space could be dangerous because extraterrestrials might not be friendly. Number 11. Why has SETI adopted a more passive strategy in recent years? The answer is SETI adopted a more passive strategy because listening for signals is more practical and logical than trying to send messages everywhere. Number 12. According to Hilary, why is listening for signals more practical than sending them? The answer is, according to Hilary, listening is more practical because scientists can wait for signals instead of guessing where civilizations are located. Number 13. What kinds of civilizations are SETI research hoping to find? The answer is SETI research hope to find advanced intelligent civilizations capable of long-distance communication and possibly space travel. 14. How have humans already made their presence known to possible extraterrestrial civilizations? The answer is humans have made their presence known by sending radio and television waves into space for about 70 years. Number 15. What is the meaning of phrase telltale signs in the context of the interview? The telltale signs means clear signals of evidence showing the existence of intelligent civilizations. Number 16. Why does the silence from space worry some scientists? The answer is the silence from space worries some scientists because they spent searching for a long time. They still have not detected any extraterrestrial civilizations. Number 17. Mention two possible explanations Hillary gives for why humans have not detected extraterrestrial civilizations yet. 1. Hillary gives two explanations. 2. Humans may be looking in the wrong place. 3. Humans may not have technology advanced enough to detect alien signals. Number 18. What does Hillary suggest about the possible lifespan of advanced civilization? The answer is Hillary suggests advanced civilization may destroy themselves and therefore exist only for a relatively short time. Number 19. Why does Hillary remain optimistic about the existence of intelligent life in the universe? The answer is Hillary remains optimistic because the universe is extremely large and humans have explored only a tiny part of it. Number 20. If Hillary had the chance to meet extraterrestrial beings, what important question would she ask them and why? The answer is Hillary would ask extraterrestrials how they survive without destroying themselves, their environment, or their growing populations. So that's all from the part 1. Here for the part 2. Write true or false for each statement. If your answer is false, you must rewrite the statement correctly based on the text. Number 1. Scientists mainly spend their time searching for UFO flying around Earth. The answer is false, because scientists mainly search for intelligent life in space, not UFO flying around Earth. Number 2. Professor Hillary strongly believes that aliens frequently visit Earth in silver discs. The answer is false, because Professor Hillary does not personally believe aliens frequently visit Earth in silver discs. Number 3. According to Hillary, all scientists believe extraterrestrials have already landed on Earth. The answer is false, because according to Hillary, not all scientists believe extraterrestrials have landed on the Earth. Number 4. Mike explains that SETI research regularly communicate with aliens using. The answer is false. Mike does not say SETI research communicate with aliens using advanced telephones. He jokes that searching for intelligence is not as simple as picking up the phone. Number 5. The snail in Alaska. Analogy was used to show how easy it is to find extraterrestrial life. The answer is false. The snail in Alaska analogy was used to show how difficult it is to find extraterrestrial life. Number 6. During the 1960 and 1970, SETI research only listened quietly for signals from space. The answer is false, because during the 1960 and 1970, SETI research actively sent messages and probes into space. Number 7. Scientists never sent any objects, music, or photo into space during earlier SETI programs. The answer is false. Scientists did send objects, music, photo, and maps into space during earlier SETI programs. Number 8. Hillary said that modern SETI strategies focus mainly on sending stranger radio signals into space. The answer is false. Hillary says modern SETI strategies mainly focus on listening for signals rather than sending stranger ones. Number 9. SETI research are mostly interested in discovering simple organisms, such as fungus rather than intelligent civilizations. The answer is false. SETI research are mainly interested in finding intelligent civilization, not simple organisms like fungus. Number 10. According to interview, humans have only been sending radio and television waves into space for about 7 years. The answer is false, because humans have been sending radio and television waves into space for about 70 years, not 7 years. Number 11. Hillary believes that every advanced civilization in the universe still exists today. The answer is false because Hillary believes some advanced civilization might no longer exist because they may have destroyed themselves. Number 12. Hillary argues that environmental destruction and overpopulation are impossible problems for advanced civilizations. The answer is false. Hillary argues that environmental destruction and overpopulation are possible problems for advanced civilizations. Number 13. Mike believes the universe contains fewer galaxies than grains of sand on Earth. The answer is false. Mike says the universe contains as many galaxies and there are grains of sand on Earth. Number 14. Hillary says that humans have already completely explored the universe and most nearby galaxies. The answer is false, because Hillary says humans have only scanned our galaxy and still have much more of the universe to explore. Number 15. At the end of the interview, Hillary said that if extraterrestrials contact her, Mike will never hear about it. The answer is false. At the end of the interview, Hillary says Mike will be the first to know if extraterrestrials contact her. And that's all from the part 2. Now move to part 3. Answer the question correctly. Number 1. Why did the mice family have plenty of food inside the house? The answer is the mice family had plenty of food because the human family liked to eat well and always kept a lot of food in the house. Number 2. Describe the cat that lived with the human family. The answer is the cat was a ragdoll cat with sky blue eyes and dark markings on its nose and paws. It was friendly and cuddly to humans. Number 3. Why did the mice consider the cat dangerous? The answer is the mice considered the cat dangerous because it had claws and teeth and liked to stalk and pounce on mice. Number 4. Where did the mice hold their family meeting? The answer is the mice held their family meeting under the floorboards of the boy's bedroom. Number 5. Why did the boy not tell his father about the mice? The answer is the boy did not tell his father about the mice because he secretly liked mice and thought they were cute. Number 6. What problem did Great-Grandpa Mouse discuss during the meeting? The answer is Great-Grandpa Mouse discussed the crisis caused by the cat threatening the mice family. Number 7. What solution did Jimmy suggest to solve the problem? The answer is Jimmy suggests trying a bell to the cat's tail so the mice could hear it coming. Number 8. Why did Jimmy not want to tie the bell to the cat himself? The answer is Jimmy did not want to tie the bell to the cat himself because he was afraid and never intended to volunteer. Number 9. How did Jimmy finally manage to place the bell on the cat? The answer is Jimmy managed to place the bell on the cat by tying the string of a toy fire truck with bells onto the cat's tail while it was sleeping. Number 10. What was the final decision made by the surviving mice at the end of the story? The answer is the surviving mice fought to move to the seaside and they all moved there. Number 11. Why did the little kid God think he was able to take care of himself? The answer is the little kid God thought he could take care of himself because his growing horns made him feel like a grown-up billy goat. Number 12. Why did the kid ignore his mother's call? The kid ignored his mother's calls because he wanted to keep nibbling the tender grass. Number 13. What happened after the kid realized the flock had gone? The answer is after the kid realized the flock had gone, he became frightened and started running across the field while calling for his mother. Number 14. Describe the atmosphere when the kid was left alone in the field. The answer is the atmosphere was lonely and frightening. The sun was setting, long shadows covered the ground, and a chilly wind made scary noise in the grass. Number 15. Where did the kid finally encounter the wolf? The answer is the kid finally encountered the wolf near a clump of trees. Number 16. Why did the kid ask to the wolf to play music before eating him? The answer is the kid asked the wolf to play music before eating him because he wanted to dance and be merry for as long as he could. Number 17. Why did the wolf agree to play a tune for the kid? The answer is the wolf agreed to play a tune because he liked the idea of having music before eating the kid. Number 18. How did the shepherd dogs know the wolf was nearby? The answer is the shepherd dogs knew the wolf was nearby because they heard the wolf's music in the evening air. Number 19. What happened when the shepherd dogs heard the wolf music? The answer is when the shepherd dogs heard the wolf music, they raced back to the pasture to chase the wolf. Number 20. Why did the wolf call himself a fool at the end of the story? The answer is the wolf called himself a fool because he stopped to play music instead of focusing on eating the kid and escaping safely. So that's all from the part 3. Now move to the last part. Is for part. Make a note for the cat that went ting-a-ling. A large family of mice live happily in a house full of food. However, their lives become dangerous after a kitten grew into a cat that haunted them. Great Grandpa Mouse called a meeting under the floorboards to discuss the problem. A young mouse named Jimmy suggested tying a bell to the cat's tail so the mice could hear it coming. Everyone expected Jimmy to do it himself. Although frightened, Jimmy secretly tied the bells from a toy fire truck onto the sleeping cat's tail. The plan worked because the mice could hear the cat moving around the house. Later, the surviving mice decided to move to the seaside. The moral of the story is that it is easier to suggest an idea than to actually do it. And number 2, about Wolf and the Kid. A young goat believed he was old enough to take care of himself, so he ignored his mother's call and stayed behind eating grass. Soon he realized the flock had gone and he was all alone. As evening came, he became frightened and met a hungry wolf near some trees. Knowing he could not escape, the kid asked the wolf to play music before eating him so he could dance one last time. The wolf agreed and played a tune. But the shepherd dog heard the music and rushed back to chase the wolf away. The wolf called himself a fool for forgetting his purpose. The moral of the story is, do not let anything distract you from your goal. So that's all from me, sir. Thank you.